So today I'm doing something a little bit different because we like to stir it up a little bit. There's going to be two parts today to this, if you call it a service or reflection. It's about Celtic spirituality, the first part, and the other part is a mystery. It's called a journey. So the two parts that I've just mentioned, during the first part of the service, you'll use your ears, your heart, and your mind to connect with Jesus and our journey with him through Lent. The second part, you'll use your eyes, your heart, and your mind, also considering our time with Jesus in Lent. Together with Joyce Rupp, I wish to share with you Celtic traditions and everyday practice, which is a fancy way for saying the ordinary in Lent. Celtic spirituality is solid and deeply rooted in a spiritual heritage. I've been deeply drawn to Celtic spirituality with its creation-centered orientation. I've often felt God's nearness when I have been in the created world, yet mainly I have felt God in the nature world. Anyone that knows me knows that my church is in the forest and by the lake. One time I was on a silent retreat, pardon me, and I was headed back to my room for the night. I paused and I looked at the dark, cloudy sky, and there I saw a single star shining brilliantly through a small opening. And there I see it, that sacredness of all life or creation is one of the most basic tenets of Celtic spirituality. And it is this aspect that most speaks to me and my relationship with God. I grow closer to God in its rich prayers. As we move through Lent, I suggest that Celtic spirituality can be a way in which to explore our inner terrain over the 6 weeks of this Lenten time. Returning ourselves back to the Holy One, we can use these Celtic aspects as stepping stones for our spiritual growth. Let's look at what I call the presence of God in the ordinary. Years ago, I completed a course named The Spirituality in Everyday, or Intentional Spirituality. In this course, every aspect of life was approached as an opportunity for union with the divine. As we believe that God permeates every part of our life, we sense God's presence everywhere. Our faith assures us that God is lovingly concerned about every daily event that we're involved in, our moments, our movements, no matter how ordinary and mundane. In the 19th century, Alexander Carmichael collected years of prayers from the Celts throughout the Western Scottish Islands. These prayers are filled with Celts' ordinary movements. They sang and prayed while they were working at outdoor tasks, such as fishing, herding sheep, and milking cows, or indoors with their household duties, weaving cloth, cooking, and even cleaning. From rising to sleeping, from birth to death, they embraced God in their everyday lives. And we can do the same. The setting for our prayers is different from that of the Celts, but like them, we are immersed in ordinary events, and God is always with us in our midst. Our intentional manner of praying can be about such things as sitting at our computer, or traveling in our car on the road, or going to a supermarket, or watching football games, or caring for children. Can you just imagine that God is there? But the biggest thing I think that I learned is being intentional, realizing that God is there. So think about this. The next time you do something ordinary, say you're washing the dishes, you do so as an intentional act. Each stroke of the object, you're washing away that dirt. You wash away the dirt of the world, the dripping of the water, warm, soapy water. You let it seep into your pores as you cleanse your soul. When you dry the spoons, you cradle your own soul in God's love for you. This is the ordinary, yet it is the extraordinary when you lift this ordinary act up to God. It is about intentionality of God in the everyday life. So think about it. It's really quite interesting when you do, say, the dishes. You look at it, this as a sacred movement, and it is really, you don't think you could be moved to do the dishes, but I highly recommend looking at it in a different way, that God is there in the dishes, in your movements. So I invite you to choose one thing that you do every day, such as brushing your teeth, or getting dressed, or turning on the computer, eating, rising from bed in the morning, or going to sleep in the evening. As you do this action, pause to remember that God is with you. God is there in every movement. Try and do this the rest of the time during Lent and beyond. Or choose to bless your children every morning and evening, or even your grandchildren online. Bless a child, bless your spouse, your friend. Even if you have a cat or a dog, you can bless them. And it's such a rewarding, warm feeling to know that God is working through you to that spouse or loved one or pet. Feel the love of the divine and the one you are blessing. Let it be so. Let it be so. Blessings abound through us from God. I invite you to discover the goodness of creation. The Celts, as am I, are deeply wedded to nature. It was through creation that divinity is most manifest for me and possibly for you. I experience oneness with God's in the hills, in a simple stone, the waves on the lake, even the streams, and many other parts of creation. Right now I'm looking at a squirrel run by. Now they're funny little beings, but they are a part of nature. Therefore, they are part of God. Many of us today live within the walls of home or work and recreation, rarely venturing far into the world of creation. Yet creation offers a wonderful opportunity to enter into oneness with our Creator God. All it takes is a deliberate turning of the heart and a desire to be present to the wonders inherent in nature. So let's look at what you would call loosely, I guess, as a Lenten practice. In a Lenten practice, you can make a deliberate effort to listen to the created world each day. Pause for a moment to look at a plant or gaze at the moon. Pay attention to the falling snow or the first buds on a branch. Notice the clouds or the shape of a flower. Listen to the sea or the sound of the wind. Receive the deeper messages hidden in these gifts of creation, for God abounds. Another thought is in our silence and in our solitude. The Celts valued silence and solitude in their simple, aesthetic, rural lifestyle. Sometimes individuals chose to live in very remote areas where they could experience a deep and strong bond with the ruggedness of the land and the sea. It was here that they most knew the mystery of creation and the Creator. Silence and solitude clear out the complex cobwebs of our daily rushing and provide a space in which to renew the purpose of our relationships and our work. It's hard to find silence and solitude where most of us live now. These valuable requirements of spiritual growth are not easily available to us, even in our own homes at times. So today, take time. Take time to find your silent place, your solitude. You may find space intentionally by turning off the car radio, watching less television, or turning inward when engaging in activity that allows for inner quiet. Spending some time in the garden, which it's now starting to look like garden season. Working on the car, commuting in a train or a bus, which most of us don't do right now, or just going for a walk or any other forms of exercise. While we do these things, we can intentionally turn toward divine presence within us and around us. So the next time you find yourself not busy, take solace in that, for it is that ordinary place, the ordinary place that we are in. Be aware of that space, for God is there. The washing of the pots and the pans, the brushing of your teeth, can you believe it? With every splash of water, every floss, every brush of your hair. Life, those movements are life and God. So consider the Celtic practices as your practices today, intentionally in Lent and beyond. Now comes the second part of, I guess you'd call it our service. And I don't know if I can do this, Felicia. I've got slides that I'd like to show. So will I be able to
screen share?
Screen share. Am I set up for
that? Let me see where I can. Can you click on screen share and see what it says?
All right. No.
Okay, I say all participants, one participant, one time, all participants.
Oh, here we go. Sorry, everybody, we're in technical world. Okay, I look like it's good. It's good.
Good.
Okay, so before I begin, we're going to take a walk now. So this is with your eyes and your heart and your mind. And in 2010, I went on a pilgrimage to Israel, which talk about a time during Lent to go. So what I've done is I put together a collection of slides for you to take a look at and ponder. And I've made a couple of notes. Now I'm going to be moving soon, so a lot of my notes are packed. So I've just put a few notes together, but it's just a time to ponder and consider another world, basically, because that's what Israel is like. And consider Jesus being there at that time. So without further ado, I will begin. Now let's see. Of course it doesn't want to do it. Oh, it says it wants control. Okay, there we go. You can see it now? Okay, can everyone see that?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, this is, right now we are in Jerusalem, and these are children going to school, and it's at the Dome of the Rock, which you will see soon. And people feel quite comfortable there. There's people of all different nationalities and religions, and they feel comfortable to gather there because the Dome of the Rock is known as a place where you can go. Plus, I hate to say, but there's a lot of military presence there. This is the famous Dome of the Rock that you've probably seen. It's on what is called the Temple Mount. It is the Muslims that control it now, but it's also been a part of the Jewish and Christian tradition. So they share their times with who has the key, because there was a lot of tumult, and now it's a shared place. You can see how intricate the walls are on the Temple Mount. Many years were taken to build this. And now I'm going to take you on a tour. Oh, before we do that, this is more of the Mount.
Joan, we can't see the extra pictures. We just saw the first one and it stayed there.
Oh,
So-
no. No. Okay.
So you have to push stop share at the top, the red box, and then you have to share another one.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do I get it to?
Go back. Okay, go back to share screen.
Yeah.
And then click on the one that you want to see.
I have to go do that with every one?
I think so.
Oh my gosh.
I think.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, because you're going from one to the next, but we only see the one of the children walking up the stairs.
Oh my
With
God.
their headscarves on. Yeah, that's what we see.
So you're not seeing a different slide right now. Okay.
No, just the children.
My gosh, this will take a very long time if we do it this way. Can you make it so I'm on share screen?
Mm-hmm. And you're also co-host, so you can do all that.
Okay, let's try this.
Oh, there. Okay, I see something about the title, the body, the slide number.
Yeah, let's try this. See if this does anything.
I see the children again. Oh, now I see the dome.
Okay, there we go. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thanks be to God.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the Dome of the Rock, and this is shared by Muslims, by Christians, by Jews, and it is a very safe place to be, as I've said. You saw the children there, and also there's a strong military presence, and the people that go to school there, when they finish high school, they all go into the military. So you see the intricate detail of the Dome of the Rock. And like I said, many years were put into building this. So it's a very sacred place to go. Now I'm taking you on a tour to the Negev desert. Very stark, obviously. And we had a night we spent in the desert. We slept out under the stars, and we had sleeping bags. And the stars were the brightest I've ever seen. You feel like you could touch them. And one night I thought it was the sun coming out. The moon came out. And again, you felt like you could hold the moon. This is like the apex of being in creation. I'll show you some other slides where you see that we had communion in and amongst the rocks. So there you see a little bit of scrub, but it's really quite stark. This is all of us gathering. You can see the Jeeps in the background. There's a group called the Bedouins, and they're desert people that live in the desert. And they took us out to a spot, and they had to find an area that was cleaner, sort of free of camel droppings. Very interesting about the Bedouins. I thought, is this, here we are, isn't this fun? We're sleeping in the desert. And I thought, how do they feel about this? Because they're not the highest well thought of in Israel. But apparently they were, the place built them homes, but they just preferred to be out in the desert. Here are the Bedouins that drove us out. They also started a fire for us, and they would dig a hole, and they made a dough, and they put it in the hole by the fire and covered it up. And later on, when they served us stew, they pulled this out, and it was bread that had been cooked in the heat by the fireplace, which was so awesome. Very gracious, very willing to share with us what it's like to live in the desert. These children, we're walking along, and all of a sudden I don't know if you call them, a herd of goats came up to us, which was amazing. You don't know where they came from. And then this woman showed up with these children. Again, we didn't see them coming or going. They just appeared. And they had jewelry and things to sell us, which of course we bought from them because you wanted to help these children and this family. There are a lot of different caves, and there are some smaller ones that we put lights in. So at night you would see these lights shining in the desert. See the lights? It was just it's an otherworldly place to be. So it felt so sacred. And our fire that they made for us. And it would get as hot as you were in the day. Boy, it was cool at night. You made sure you had your sleeping bag sealed around your neck. Now I'm taking you out of the desert, and now you're in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. This is just a part, and you'll see more as we go along, but the detail again.
We don't see it, Joan.
You don't see it.
The Church of the Holy Sepulchre. Yeah, if you can.
Can you see it now?
Yeah.
Oh dear. Here, we're just going along. What happens? Can you see this? What can you see now?
White.
Ah. I see. It looks like
There, you got a glimpse of that.
Can
yeah,
you see,
there's several slides that are flashing by.
can you see the desert now?
Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. We'll get there. We'll get there. So this is us in the desert.
Mhm.
This was the very end of our degree. So these are priests in waiting that are all gathered here. So the ultimate for learning. There's the Bedouins.
The pictures have been enlarged to the point where we can't really understand what we're looking at.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. If you
How
can
about that?
shrink them a bit there, yeah.
Can you see that?
Oh,
Pictures in the top right-hand corner, but just the edge of it.
Yeah,
Gosh,
yeah, just the edge of it.
I don't know what to say about that. That's too bad.
Yeah, it's moving down now.
Can you see it okay there or no?
Move it further down and to your left. There you go.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, we're learning, aren't we? I don't know why it's doing this, but it's doing it.
I don't either. I've never seen things.
Never say, I've used this before and I've never had it go this way, but here we are.
well,
We're
maybe
adapting. So we're in the desert. Can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Now you're in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre.
Yes.
Okay. This is just out around the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. Beautiful gardens. This is a man outside of it. There's a little hole in the wall. You can't see it, but that's how you would get into it because they would guard it. It was the original way to get in, and they kept it small so not too many animals could get in. The Garden of Gethsemane, do you remember that? Where the garden watch where Jesus was waiting?
Mm-hmm.
We were in there with the Mount of Olives, these huge olive trees that were hundreds of years old. Do you see that picture? It's the Israeli flag, and there's a desert behind it. Can you see that? You don't see it.
no,
There it is.
There.
it's still enlarged.
Yeah, you have to move it down so we can see the flag. Oh, there it is. Yes.
That
Can you
works.
see that?
Yeah.
Okay, that is we're in the West Bank, and we had to go through there to get to Palestine, and we had to stop the bus, and they said now heavily armed people are coming in, and it's not a joke. And we were all laughing and having fun. Well, it really wasn't a joke. We had to sit there very still while they came in to make sure that we were just tourists.
Mhm.
Can you see that church?
Yes.
That is the Church of the Beatitudes. You know how you hear, blessed are the people, for they will inherit the earth, that type of thing. This was made by someone that was very rich, and they had steps that went up to the synagogue, and each step was, blessed are the. So it was gorgeous.
There's the Dead Sea.
This is, yeah, the Dead Sea. Some friendly people, I said, do you mind if I take your picture? And they said, why would you want our picture? But they said, sure. This is out towards the Western Wall, or the Wailing Wall. This is the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. Can you see all of that? I don't know how much you can see. You can see the mosaic.
Yeah.
Of Christ on the cross, and he's being nailed to the cross.
Yep.
Yeah. This is, they keep finding different mosaics. So this one is most of they found and completed that again. So we can't even fathom the thousands of years that it took to find it, let alone someone put this together at one time. That's the police presence. So they're quite young, actually. They're, you know, and they didn't look scary, but they certainly had their weapons. So that was humbling. There's a number of Hasidic Jews. This is outside in old Jerusalem. Okay, a body of water that looks muddy. Where do you think that is?
The Jordan.
Yeah, it is where Jesus was baptized. And there's a thing that priests and priests-to-be do. They gather a little bit of water and they bring it home with them. And then when they do a baptism, when they're back home, they put a little bit, sprinkle of the River Jordan in the baptismal font. And if you run out, you can't wait for another priest to go and come back and say, do you have the stuff? Do you have the stuff? So you can get a little bit more water to put in there. Very, very special. And people, there are some people there being baptized as adults right in the river. This is a place, it's called Ein Gev, and it's a kibbutz, and it's near the Sea of Galilee, and it was made in the mid 1930s as a tower and stockade settlement. So even in there, they have it almost like its own town. They had cows, so they sold dairy, they sold cheese, they sold, but they made it as a stockade settlement with a threat of attack from surrounding area. So that was back in the day. Now it's basically agriculture and tourism, but it was lovely to stay in there and have the water right there. It's just a very peaceful, serene place to be. That's a little bit more of it. Now this is by the Mediterranean, and it's Caesarea Augusta built this fort, and it was obviously during tumult. It was in the south called Haifa, and they built this large rampart, and also he had quite a tunneling effect and built a great aqueduct so politically he was strong because he controlled the water that was in the towns. So that, I don't know how many thousands of years old it was, and it's still standing, and especially to be by salt water. That's in the village. Now you can see the military presence. This was our bus having to go through there. It's the Israeli West Bank barrier or wall, and it's a separation barrier in the West Bank along what they called the Green Line. The barrier is a contentious element of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and that was very much felt. The Israelis describe the wall as a necessary security barrier against terrorism, where the Palestinians call it a racial segregation or apartheid wall. And interesting to hear the Palestinians talk about how they were kicked out of their houses and how they went back years later and there's other families living in their homes. That was the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, which has gone on for hundreds and hundreds of years.
Especially since the partition.
Now I'm just going to go back there. You can see can you see the grave site there? If I move it, can you see that?
There.
Oh, that's not a grave site. This is in Old Jerusalem, so there's a lot of places to walk, but there's a lot of little secret areas like where people live, and there's doorways that close it off. But then you'll see in some other pictures where it opens up, and they have beautiful courtyards inside. That is sort of their free area to be. Like, it's very safe in there because there's a lot of tourists, but it's cordoned off in areas where people live. Can you see in there? There's a little courtyard area. I see someone has their motorcycle in there. This man is playing outside the Western Wall or the Wailing Wall. And we're able to go in there, and they have little pieces of paper, and you write a prayer on there and you push it into the stones of the Western Wall. That's gone on for hundreds of years. And you see people having their, they become a man, they have their ceremonies there. More Hasidic Jews. Beautiful, like beautiful stonework and beautiful flowers. A lot of tile work.
Mhm.
Here's the grave sites, and what they did was, I don't know if it doesn't show very well, but there's stones that are on top of the grave sites, and people would stand up above and throw stones on the grave sites. So I thought, well, what is that all about? Apparently, they would put the stones on the grave, and some people believe that it keeps the soul down in this world, and some people find that comforting. Another interpretation suggested that the stones keep the demons and the golems from getting into the graves. So because of the water level, the graves are above for you to see. Christian area. So it's very interesting that the old Muslims area, the Jew area, the Christian areas, and you could go in and feel very comfortable everywhere. It's a Mediterranean. A lot of carvings and tile work. Again, that's in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. So that the Holy Sepulchre, it identifies a place to go to think about Jesus's crucifixion and the tomb of Jesus of Nazareth. So it's a great pilgrimage, and you'll see an area where they make it like a coffin, and people will bring cloth and rub the cloth on the coffin and take it home with them. It's a very sacred place to be. This is someone coming of age to be a man, going to the Western Wall. So a big party going on. Oh. Here they just uncovered this. I can't remember where it was in Israel, but they found these ruts in the stone, and they had a lot of stonework around. It looked like an old village. So I thought that they're still finding villages and all sorts of history. So you can see the ruts going through the road. Oh, you saw that, you saw that. This is Gethsemane again, and all the tile, that is huge, and that's tile work up there. So we, here in Canada, our history, we're so young. You come back from seeing this, you think, oh, we are so young, like the hundreds of years of history they have there. This is outside of the this is outside of Old Jerusalem. And you can see, that picture doesn't do it justice, but you can see different levels of, depending on where the soil was at the time, they would make different openings, and different people would be, politically would be in charge of that area. That's the Holy Sepulchre. So it's almost like a little church inside a church. So you'd go in and light candles. That's the opening of the Holy Sepulchre. Like I said, they don't want animals to come in, so you have to stoop and try and get in there. Of course, now they have big doors, but that was the supposedly the original site. Look at how the detail in that is incredible. But you can see how many sections there are to the building. It's enormous. That's a part of the old fort to go in and out. So you can see how big it is. Cars go in and out, and there's a huge market, and there's so many people and a lot of haggling going on. That's the fort, the Caesarea Augustus fort. That's in the Dead Sea, and we got to float on the water there. That was quite, so you would literally float on the water. See, someone in the stone would carve something that was like, the artwork and the history was everywhere. Like that was just along a pathway. That was a man that invited us to go into a building where there was an opera singer. She was rehearsing for something. They had there's a lot of culture, a lot of art. So he invited us in, and the nuns gave us something to eat, and we sat there and listened to this woman rehearsing for this big event. And it was just that my friend and I, it was just incredible, incredible. So many things to read, and in all different languages. And different belief systems that people have, you would see as well. Beautiful, beautiful stonework. Oh, we saw that. I'm just going to go through this part that you've seen already. Okay, now we're, this is toward the end, and we went to Mount Sinai, and we were very fortunate. We'd have to got up really early in the morning, and we got on camels and we went up Mount Sinai, and the dean of the University of Toronto was with us. And at the top, we had a sunrise communion up on the top of Mount Sinai. It was like, pinch me, I can't believe I'm here.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, you see, here they are.
Yeah. Yes.
They certainly had done it before. They knew the route. It was, I don't know if it was comfortable or not. I couldn't just believe that I was there. Now on the way back, some people went up to some other area, but on the way back, you walked down, and it was quite a distance, but the camels knew where they were going. They were fed when they came back, so they just went on their own. But this one camel, I'm walking down and I see this camel just sort of wandering around, and I thought, well, maybe it's lost, me being the tourist that I am. So I got its halter, and I thought, well, I'll just walk it down. So I'm walking down the mountain with my camel. And I had this man came up to me, and he's saying something and all upset. And then I realized, let go of the camel. And then he ended up finding his way back. But interesting times. And that's the end. That's the camel saying goodbye. So there we are. So you saw, we've talked about Lent in the way of having just worship in the ordinary, finding God in the ordinary. And I hope that resonated with you. I'd like to hear what you have to think. And then I showed you pictures of my pilgrimage and how important the walking with Jesus is. It's talk about really driving home the point when you're there. It certainly makes you realize how important it is. So does anyone have any questions or any comments about what they've seen or heard?
Mhm.
It was a wonderful journey indeed.
It was incredible. Just
Yes.
Yeah.
And you're right. I find when I go out for a walk, I pray for the houses that I pass by. I thank God for the trees, the birds, all the churches. I pray for all the ministers in the area, ministerial and so forth. I find for me it's a good time to give God thanks and to pray as for whatever the Lord puts on my heart.
Hmm.
Yes. Oh, I thought it was an absolutely wonderful homily sermon, because I do believe that nature is all around us, and that's one of the way I appreciate God the most. God is always close when you're next to nature. The other thing that I liked was because it reminded me of the time that Irene and I went to Jerusalem and to the Holy Land.
Oh, you went.
So many more places than you did, but it was a reminder of some of the things we did then. And one of the things, I don't know if you had to do it or not, before we went to the Wailing Wall, we had to take off anything that looked like a Christian a cross or anything else like that. I don't know if you had to do that, but we were also able to go there as well.
Yeah,
So,
and cover your shoulders, make sure you're
yes, that's right. Yes. No.
yeah.
And Lynn and I also had the opportunity to take prayers from here. So folks that we knew, such as Fred Provis and a group from the seniors, wrote prayers, and we took them and we put them in the wall on behalf of those folks. So
Oh, that's wonderful.
there are so many special
Yeah.
times.
Yeah. I also think about praying or feeling close to God in the ordinaries. I did a thing, and a friend of mine does this. I don't know if you're knitters. Does anyone here knit? Well,
Yeah, I do.
talk about the meditation of knitting and the rhythm of knitting and the relaxation of knitting. And that can be a time of godliness as well. So it's so interesting to think about just the everyday thing, you know, how you can feel God in that.
Yeah, I see God in a lot of things, and in nature. And I have a cat that I'm very close to, and I often will talk to him and tell him how God looks after him and how God makes his fur soft, and his whiskers, and how God has made him so good and so forth. So my cat is quite informed about God. And when I really appreciated and enjoyed your pictures. This is so funny talking to a screen. I've always wanted to go to the Middle East, so I really enjoyed your pictures. You were talking about how a lot of the Palestinian people had had their property taken. My nephew's wife's father is a Christian Palestinian, and he said so he's about my age, I guess. And he said when he was living over there, and I guess it would be the 6 Day War, he came home from school one day to find all of his family, including his cousins, massacred. And
Oh,
yeah, and they of course lost their property.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Yeah, we have no idea of the
No, we
horror, do we?
no, we don't have any idea of how fortunate we are in so many ways.
No.
Yeah, we are.
One thing that, to go back and not to diminish that horror that you just told us, but when you're talking about your cat,
Yes.
think about considering that God is talking to you through the cat, you know, giving you comfort.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. I think so.
Yeah.
The cat and I look after each other.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I very much see that.
Yeah. Isn't it something, eh?
Oh yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But thanks for showing us all those pictures.
Oh, you're welcome. It helps me too to see them again. I'm sure like Lynn and my lovely Irene would say the same. When you see them, it just brings back a lot, doesn't it?
Yes, indeed it does.
Well, thank you, everyone.
oh,
Carolyn?
I was just going to say, I've been to Ireland and bought books on the Celtic lifestyle and the poetry and everything. And I relate to God through nature as well. And I found it very meaningful.
Oh, I'm glad. I'm glad. Because it can be often the most simple things, eh? That's where it's so pure, like a baby's laugh or pouring some maple syrup, Irene.
Yeah.
Watching the sap drip out of the tree. No, it's true. That's godliness to me.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you so much, Joan. Shall we stop the recording then?
Sure.
It's great to get some of the sharing on the recording too, right?
Yes.
Beautiful. Thank you, everybody.
Yes, thank you. And unfortunate for the situation with the slides, but we got through it.
We got through it. Yay.